The question is whether or not you want to achieve your goals, and are you doing everything that you can to accomplish those goals? Do you even have goals to begin with? Or are you just one of the many talkers in the world? You know, what I've realized, especially over the last week or so, is that it's not necessarily pleasure or material things or anything of the sorts that is that longingness that people crave. What people crave is the actual connection. And it's like I knew this, but I didn't know how to put it into words until today. Like, connection is what brings forth all of the possibilities in life. And if you are not connected to your goals, for example, if you don't let your goals strive who you, let's see, how would you say it? If you don't let your goals almost possess you in a way that you can't do anything without committing to those goals long term, and you exercise self-discipline in achieving those goals, then you are actually more authentic with yourself, and you actually can raise your self-esteem as well. And by exercising self-discipline, you can also increase your own sense of self-respect. And it can be very challenging at sometimes to have self-respect if you didn't know how to give yourself self-respect in the past. But blessings are coming to those that strive, and especially those that are willing to ascend with the flame and with the smoke. A lot of people don't want the smoke. A lot of people don't really want to be seen in such a way that people might have negative viewpoints on me or on themselves. And when I was first starting my YouTube channel, I was very conscious about that. I didn't want people to have negative views of me because of the way I thought. And then I figured after I made a first few videos, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I don't really care, because I would rather speak the truth and be who I am and commit to what I think is right and what I think is just and righteous than live a false sense of reality. And so that's what I was thinking about when I first started the YouTube channel. But through time, I realized that sometimes if the fight, it's like in the Bon Jovi song, Living on a Prayer. If you live for the fight and that's all that you've got, then go for it. And chosen ones know what it's like to live a fight. Not a physical fight necessarily, but a spiritual fight. And a lot of the times you're going to shock people because they think that you're going to do something and they think that you're going to act a certain way, but then you don't. And that surprises them. And this is, good on your part, because that demonstrates that your unpredictability in some shape or form against your enemies. Now, not all people are your enemies, of course, but a lot of people out there are your enemies. They don't want to see you succeed in the ways that God knows that you might be able to if you just put in some effort, some real effort to really change who you are. And this doesn't just happen overnight. So the change happens when you start to change your behaviors. And the things that you do are going to be far more important than and demonstrative in your character than anything that you say. Because that's what all the talkers are about. The talkers are just there to do what they want to do and not do what they can. Because doing what you can and doing what you want are very different things. Especially if you have long-term goals. Whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in getting land or property or whatever that is that you have that desire, if you don't give it some juice, there's not going to be any fuel for it to have any momentum and bring forth and manifest into your existence. What you dream is not going to be dreamt into existence unless you actually put and make the steps to do so. And sometimes I'll just ask God for ways to instruct me in my dreams, and that's how I operate in certain things. Like right now, I'm going through a bit of an internalization change of behaviors, and I'm changing the things that I'm eating. I'm changing the things that I'm consuming. I'm changing and not just like materially or food wise. It's more like I'm getting rid of certain things in my life as well. I'm doing like a summer cleaning, I guess you could say. And then I'm also putting stricter boundaries on my relationships, because I'm getting to the point to where I simply cannot afford to even entertain possibilities. Like, I don't even want to entertain options at this point. And I've received a few different emails over the past few days where, like, they're just super, super long. And it's like, look, I just don't have the time. I don't have the time to go through and answer you point by point by point for free. Sorry, I just don't have the time for it. Not anymore. And I do want to help, but at this point in time in my life, I just can't afford that anymore. I want to be able to help, but when there's other people that are in line and that are waiting to talk, there's certain priorities that I have to place in line as well, especially if they're willing to pay for consultations or anything like that. So, or workshops or anything else that I offer. But it's like, I'm not a man that can do everything. I wish I could. But connection and meaningful connection is going to be where I place my trust in. And those that are not willing to operate in those parameters will be cut off. And it's like, look, this is where I'm going. I know where I want to do. Like, I know what I want to do. I know where I want to go. I know what I have to do it. And I know how I'm going to do it. But I'm going to need this and this and this from that person or that person in order to achieve that. If you're not on board, that's fine. But don't expect me to continue to invest in this kind of relationship going forward. And so that's just what you have to do. And sometimes that's the best way to build a connection, is by providing healthy boundaries. Boundaries are what guides us to the proclivity of stability. And boundaries are what guides relationships to ways that the relationship can work. So, for example, at a job that I had a long time ago, if I was expected, I was a dishwasher at one point, and this was, again, a long time ago, but I was a dishwasher and a server at a restaurant. And there were times when I had to stay later. I had to commit to a certain amount of time afterward because the customers would stay in longer and whatnot. But it made it very difficult for me to have a schedule. And anybody that's worked in the restaurant business, I always give the utmost respect to them because I know what it's like to work in the restaurant business. I know what it's like to do that kind of work, because customer service in the restaurant business can be they can be pricks. Those customers, man, they can be real pricks. So I always give utmost respect. I always make sure to say sir or ma'am. And I want to make sure that they know that they're appreciative. They're appreciated, and they're appreciative for my appreciation. And so, anyway, as I was a dishwasher or a server, when I had to stay later and I had to commit to certain things that weren't necessarily within my job description, I still had to do the job. I still had to do what needed to be done. It wasn't like I was able to just leave. And if I did, I wouldn't have that job. I would not be able to continue to work there. And I'm not even the kind of person to do such a thing anyway. I don't stop when there's nothing. I don't stop when the clock runs out. And even when I was playing sports, I remember I lost a tennis match in high school. And after the match, I went and practiced serves for, a couple hours after the match because my serves were so terrible during the match. And my parents were actually pretty pissed at me because I was home super late. But I wanted to stay and make sure that I never make that mistake again, because I loved the opportunity to grow, but I also hated losing in such a way that I knew I was in the wrong because I wasn't performing. I just wasn't performing. And so anybody that's played sports will understand this as well, that those that don't perform, they don't get to go to varsity. They don't get to go. You might be ready for varsity. You might be. But maybe your partner, I was playing doubles, and my partner wasn't ready for varsity at the time. And so we were on JV. And I was ready to move to varsity. And so I wanted to make sure and show the coach that, look, I'm ready to go to varsity. I'm willing to play singles. I want to go to varsity. I don't want to be on JV anymore. And sure enough, that's what I was able to do. I was actually able to make the doubles varsity. And it was because of my willingness to work hard. It wasn't necessarily my talent that got me to varsity. It was my ability to understand that you don't just get things. You have to earn them. And I was really, really thankful for that life lesson with tennis. I learned a lot from sports in high school. But this might also be the case with your relationships. You know, the people that you're around, they might be on JV or even the sophomore team. But you're on varsity. Like, you are ready for the lights. You are ready for the crowds. You're ready for people to see. You're ready for the bigger leagues. You're ready for something bigger. But they might not be ready for that. And that's something that you just have to accept and move on. Like, I didn't want to leave my buddy that I was playing doubles with on JV behind, but I sure as hell was not going to let that opportunity to go to varsity pass me by. Why would I do that? So, yeah, the connection that I had with this person was good, and we still were fine afterward, but sometimes the pleasure for playing with my buddy versus my goal of being on varsity, the goal was outweighed in regards to importance. And so I always place my long-term goals above anything else in my relationships. And yes, my relationships are a part of those goals, and I have certain standards and requirements that I want to meet before I make those adjustments. But I'm not going to just throw away my long-term goals for the sake of a short-term pleasure. That is lack of self-control. That is going to dehumanize you. It's going to demoralize you. And it's going to put you in a worse place than you were before. So why would you do that? So if you want to go on varsity in your relationships and business and whatever you got going on, and you might look at your JV buddy, you might want to stay with him, but what's more important? Is it the long-term goal? Or is it the pleasure of playing with a friend? That's up to you to decide. Again, you can do what you want, and you can do what you can. But those are not always the same things. So with that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. And until next time, peace be with you.